Hello, everyone. We are going to talk about prompting today. And I know you have heard a lot about prompting, so I'm not going to bombard you with a lot of information about different types of prompting, but I'm going to limit myself to essential prompt strategies that you can use just for beginners. Prompting is about asking AI to questions or giving instructions or giving a command and then getting response from the system. Right. So that's all about prompting. And to effectively get a very rich information from the system, a good response that is in line with what you are expecting is very important for you to be clear about what exactly you want the system to do for you. So clarity is very important. Provide a clear question so that you can get a response that you desire. So I'm going to use Gemini for this presentation. And I'm also going to use a data set. So you can see here that I have 10 participants. This study is about responsible innovation, right? So the purpose of the study is to explore participant perspective about responsible innovation and participants were innovators, policymakers, regulators, and also the general public, right? So this is the data that we're going to use. This is a brief information about the demographics. We have the participant ID, their role, we have their profession, age, gender, and also geographical location. So this is a brief information that about the data that we're going to use. So back to prompting, asking the system the right question, asking the system question. So think about prompting as conducting qualitative interview, right? And you have to make sure that you design questions that you can get rich information from participants. So this is, you have to be very deliberate. You have to plan and think about what kind of question that I can ask participants so that I can get information that's rich so that I'll be able to address my research question. The same thing when you are interacting with any AI tool. What kind of questions? So the one type of prompting is called zero-shot prompting. Think about zero-shot prompting as asking a question without or giving a command without giving an example, right? So it's direct, especially when you don't have an example to give, right? Let's say you want the system to give you an outline of a proposal, right? Or you want a system to develop interview questions for you. You just provide the system, okay, can you develop an interview questions to help me to collect data from this participant? And you'll be able to get a very good information, right? When do you have to use zero-shot prompting? When you don't have examples, you just want quick information from the system, you can do that. One example is that let's say you are doing a granite theory and you just want to know what is granite theory. You can ask the system and you'll be able to get basic understanding of granite theory. And maybe you can ask further questions as you receive that information. So let's try this. So you can type your question, right? But I like using this microphone. It's easy. So you just talk in the system, you dictate to the system, and then you can click on enter, and then the system can process your request. So let's try that. We choose my microphone and I'm going to ask a question. I think it's recording me now, so I will delete this one and start the recording. So if you want to start a recording, you click on this use microphone. I'm doing a qualitative study and I just want to understand one of the qualitative research approaches, which is grounded theory. What is grounded theory? And let me see what you're going to get. So I just provided information. So this one is zero shot prompt. I didn't provide example. I just want brief information on grounded theory and then I got that. So grounded theory is an excellent qualitative approach to understand, particularly when you are aiming to develop a theory about a social or psychological process. And then to give more information about a grounded theory and then cited sources for you so that you can explore further. Perfect. And then also provided the steps, open coding, agile coding, selective coding, memo writing, all the information, and also provided references. That's awesome, right? We didn't ask for references, but you see the system has provided all the information. So So the good thing is that if you want something quick, respond from the system, this zero shot will be good. If you don't have an example, if you are just want to explore a concept or tell the system to give you some information quickly, then zero shot prompting is good. If you don't have an example, you can use zero shot prompting. But a limitation here is that it can give you general information because you didn't provide a lot of background information. You are giving the system a room for them to assume, right, that that's what you are looking for. So as this one, I did not ask the system to provide me detailed information about the granite theory, but it went ahead and gave me the core principles. It went ahead and gave me the steps that I have to follow to analyze my qualitative data using granite theory. And it also gave me reference. I didn't ask for that. You see, when you provide a zero shot, the system can provide you information that you may not need, right? So that's a little bit of limitation. Also, but it's a good approach, especially if you are a beginner, you want to start interacting with an AI tool. Zero shot prompting will be helpful. Let's go to the next one. The next one is called few shot prompting. So few shot prompting is quite related to zero shot prompting, but the difference is that for the few shot, you provide examples for the system to know what exactly that you're expecting. The system will learn from an example so that it will provide you rich information that is consistent to what you are expecting. It's also addressed the issue that you may have with the zero shot prompting, right? So we can try that and see. Right. Let's try the fields of short prompting and see what we're going to have. I'm trying to use this approach, which is the grounded theory approach, to explore people's understanding of burnout, especially those who are in the health sector, right? And I'm planning to develop interview questions. Can you help me come up with interview questions? Let me provide you some examples so that you can provide me questions that are consistent to my expectations. One example is, what is your understanding of burnout? The second example is, what do you think are the factors that contribute to burnout? So these are the questions that I may ask and then use this to set up about 15 questions that I can ask participants. So okay, so I finished, so I click on this one. So, and then, when you detect that way, you have to review and then take some information that was you don't want from that. So I'm trying to take some of the information here. So you see here that I provided a command and then I gave some examples, right? So this is what we call a few short prompts. And let's see what we're going to get. So based on examples, the system has been able to provide me about 15 questions. Yep. So you can see here that, it has also even grouped them into themes for me. So the first one is defining and experiencing burnout, right? And then you have generated 4 questions under that and the factors. And so the next theme is the factors and conditions, right? And then it has provided me 1, 2, 3, 4 questions that I can ask. So this is where you see how the questions are consistent to what I want the system to do. And you have the chance to review and make sure that the questions are consistent with your research question. You can even go further and say that these are my research questions. Make sure these questions are in line with my research questions. So you see, this is called few short prompting. In what situation? A situation where you have examples to give, a situation where you want the system to really provide you what exactly you're expecting. You can provide examples and the system will be able to do that. When you are brainstorming ideas, maybe the zero shot prompting will be the best, but when you have idea about the output, how the output will look like, you can provide a system an example for you to get information. So let's move to context prompting. So think about context prompting is all about you are giving a command, but you are also provide the system some background information, giving the system information that will help it to provide you a very good response. And I think that it also helped provide an output that is within the context of the background that you have provided. Imagine you just say that Can you generate interview questions about burnout? The system will, yes, to go ahead and generate interview questions. But if you provide some background that, okay, I'm exploring experience of burnout among primary healthcare physicians, and I want to know a lot about the experience using interpretative phenomenological analysis research approach. Providing some background will help you, or you can say that I just want to focus on participants who are new to the profession, who have spent about a year or two in the profession. You want to know the experience of burnout, right? Providing background information will help you to get rich output that is in line with the context that you have provided. So, what does it mean by providing a context? One way of providing a context to define is to define the situation. Who are involved in the research process? What is going on? Where? And when. Providing answers to all these will help the system to provide a very tailored output that will be useful for you. It also helps you to set parameters, right? What are your goals? Who are you focused on? What are the constraints? And you also be able to provide a background in terms of what is the history? What is the domain knowledge, right? So one example is that you can say, I'm doing a research within the field of international psychology, or I'm doing a research within the field of physics, right? That will help to inform the system that let me use information that is within the confines or the field that have been provided, right? So it's very important for you to provide background or context. And then when you provide a context, you stop the system from making a lot of assumptions, right? You stop the system from giving you general information. Just think about this. It's the same thing as want to have a one-on-one conversation with an expert. Let's say, um, let me use my profession as an example. I'm a methodology expert. So imagine that you meet me one-on-one, you want me to help you. And then when you meet me, you didn't give me any background information about your study, what your study is about, who are involved in the study, what is kind of information that you want to get from the participant, what kind of research approach are you using, what stage are you in with your dissertation or your study, and you just go ahead and say that how many participants should I focus on? I may give you a general information. I can say that in qualitative study, having about 5 to 15 or 25 participants is good. Because you did not give me background information about your study, I may not be able to give you specific answer. I will give you general information. You are giving me the room to make a lot of assumptions, and that's what you want to prevent when you are interacting with the system. You are interacting with the AI, trying to give a lot of background information so that the system will be able to give you rich or desired output. So that's it about that. So we can try that and see. Um, let me start a new conversation. So let's use this example of responsible innovation. So let's say you have been asked to analyze the qualitative data, and then you want the system to develop themes for you based on what the transcript is going to give to the system. In this case, if you are using context prompting, you have to give the system brief information about what your study is all about and also the questions that you want to address. You can also provide demographic information if you want to, but just provide enough background information so that the system will be able to help you. In this case, I may give the system information about the purpose of the study. I will give the system information about my research design that I'm using, and I'll also give information about the research question I want to address. So what I'm going to do is I will say, this is what my study is about. And then I copy the purpose of the study here and put it in this. So I'm trying to build a context, right? And then what I can say is that I have collected data from 10 participants. Please find attach the interview transcripts. So now I've given a little background. I can also talk about the methodology. I'm using case study approach. This is where I'm going to give a command. Can you analyze all the attached transcripts, developing themes to help me address the following research question? Right. Then I can copy and paste the research question here, and I'm going to attach the transcript. So I'm attaching the 10 transcript. So I have my 10 transcript here. Okay, so everything is attached. So I'm clicking on enter. And let's see what we're going to get. Okay, so the system has gone through everything and now it has developed themes and also provided evidence from the attached transcript. So all these are evidences. You can see the second theme, and you can also see the third theme, accountability and adaptability. And then you can also see fostering collective stewardship. Um, so you see when you provide background information, you get a very good result, right? And that's why, it's going to be, you're going to get a different result. Imagine that I just say that go through this data and develop themes. You may not get rich information because you haven't provided the background information, what the study is all about. You haven't given your research question to the system. So it's very important for you to do that. So context prompting is so powerful because you're giving the system background information, and as you do that, the system will take that information into consideration as it's processing or implementing the command or trying to respond to your command. So let's go to the next one. What is the next one? The next one is prompt chaining. So the prompt chaining, think about this when you are interviewing participants, right? So, and you are using semi-structured interview questions. So the semi-structured means that you are asking them questions based on how they respond. So you already have questions that you want to ask participants, but you are not strictly going by those questions. Let's say you have 10 questions that you're going to ask. You are not going strictly going by a question. You're going with the flow. You ask the question and how they respond to your question, you ask further questions. So that's more similar to prompt chaining, where you start with one question and the system responds, and based on the response, you ask further question, right? This one is very important if you want to always evaluate the response that the system gives, right? So let's say instead of telling the system, okay, can you go through this data and develop themes? You can start by saying that, yes, this is the purpose of my study. This is my research question. Can you go through the data, identify information that are significant, and extract them for me? After the system has extracted, you can review all the excerpts. And if you are okay, then you go further and ask, okay, based on this excerpt, can you develop themes for me? Or can you develop codes for me? And then after developing codes, you can say, can you categorize the codes and then develop themes? I like this one because you always have the opportunity to review the output. If you are not satisfied with the output, you can ask the system question for clarification or verification. Or you can also ask the system to reflect on the output. You can say that, can you review the output, making sure that they are directly from the data that provided to you? Or can you review the output, making sure that they are addressing the research question? This is an opportunity for the system to do some kind of self-reflection, and you can do that. So I really like this one if you want to examine each step that the system is going to take. So this one, the same thing as doing an interview, you plan. You already have questions that you're going to ask participants. You already have the steps in mind concerning how to analyze qualitative data. You start with the initial coding, you develop initial code and categorize the code and develop themes. You already have the steps there. But you are not going to ask the system to go through all the steps at once. You ask the system one step at a time, review the output, you ask further. The reason why you may have to do this one is that sometimes the system may give you wrong information, or the information that you're going to get is not enough, it's not adequate, it's not what you desire. And then you have the response, you have the option to ask the system more questions. So that's what I like about prompt chaining. So let's try some prompt chaining here. Let's start all over here, and then I'm going to attach all the transcripts again. So I have attached all the transcript, and I'm going to also provide the system the purpose of the study and the question that I'm going to ask. So I can say, here is the purpose of my study. Can you extract all relevant quotations from the attach data and addressing the following research question. So then what I do is I copy my first research question, and then this is my first research question, and then I click on enter. And you can also give further questions. You can say make sure that all quotations are directly from the data. So it's a way of also making sure the system will not make things up. We can say that make sure all quotations are from the attached transcript. And then it click on enter. And so the system will go through and extract all the quotations. So you can see that the system has gone through extract. And also, Gemini can make mistakes. So have to double check. You have to make sure that the quotation are right. So how do you double check? You can copy some of the quotation. Let me copy a few of here. And this one is from P1. So I'm going to open P1 transcript, and then I'm going to search for that quotation. Let me see. It's there, right? So it's always good to try and check whether the information is really directly from the data that you attach, because the system can make mistakes, right? So if you are satisfied, then you move on to the next stage. The next stage is to ask the system to develop code. Can you develop codes based on the quotations you have extracted, right? So you see how we are building on what the system has provided to us. That's why you call prompt chaining, right? So now the system has given us the quotation. You see, the system has given us code, but I'm not satisfied with the code. I want the system to provide me codes that are in between 2 to 5 words. So because I'm not satisfied with the codes, I can go ahead and say, can you refine the codes so that each of them will be between 2 and 5 words? So these are the refined codes, right? Anticipate future impacts, ensure fair access. So you see how the system has generated code that are between 2 to 5 words, right? If you are not satisfied, you can also let the system do some self-evaluation. You can say, can you do a self-evaluation, making sure all codes address the research question, right? And then the system will do some self-evaluation and then give you some information, right? So it shows whether they are aligned with the research question. Perfect. And you can also download it in the Excel spreadsheet, right? And then you can go to the next stage. You can say, can you develop themes by categorizing the codes? Then the system goes ahead and do that. If you are not satisfied with the theme, you can ask the system to refine the themes for you. So you can see here that the system has provided a theme. So that's how the prompt chaining is all about. So let's go to the next one. The next one is chain of thought prompting. Chain of thought is, think about this way. You want the system to provide you step by step, right? Instead of asking the system, can you develop themes? Or instead of asking the system, can you analyze my qualitative data? You can also add that, can you think step by step? Normally, you want the system to go through the process systematically so that you'll be able to know the system thinking process, right? Especially if something is complex. One of the complex issue is that, let's say you want the system to code the data and then connect or compare the themes to existing theoretical framework, or transform the theme into existing theoretical framework. It's a little bit of complex task. So you want the system to break things down for you to know the thinking process. Or you can provide a system some steps and as you want a system to go through. Normally, most of the AI tools, right, like ChatGPT, Gemini, Cloud AI, they have some kind of thinking function or reasoning function within, but to make sure that the system is using reasoning function when you are asking it to complete a task, you can say things step by step or provide your reasoning as you are solving this problem. By doing that, you are asking the system to use its reasoning process as it's completing the task. So whenever you have a complex task, you can ask the system to do it step by step. Even when you are analyzing qualitative data, you can say that, can you analyze this qualitative data using narrative approach and think step by step? We can do that and see what we're going to get. So let's start from here. Let's start a new conversation. We're going to attach so the same thing, we're going to give the system some background information about our study. It's always good to give them some background. So we're gonna copy and paste the purpose. So you can say that here is what my study is about. And then you state the purpose of the study, and then you can say that using narrative approach, can you analyze the data, the attached data, addressing the following research question. And let's see what you're going to get. And then you copy your research question and put it there. This is sort of my research question, and it's going to use narrative approach. And the last one that you can say that please think step by step and provide your decision and reasoning. Let's see what we're gonna get. So it's using reasoning. So you see that it's providing its reasoning now. Okay, let's say start researching and see. And you can click here to see the reasoning, right? So you're going to all the documents. So you're going to all the documents, see that strategy for data extraction, providing you data thinking, optimizing data access, focusing on stakeholders' perspective, and yep, thinking. So it will take some time for the system to provide us the report, right? So you see how when you tell the system to think step by step, you are giving the system the chance to reason, to provide systematic approach in solving a problem and also showing its work to you, right? So it helps you to trust what the system is going to find. And also the result will be more likely that it will be more desirable because the system took its time to analyze and provide you the information. So let's see what we're going to get. Okay, so the result is ready. So you see how it has provided the output, a report. We have all the themes and then provided in the narrative approach. Analyze the data using narrative approach. So you have all the information that you need, you can review, and then if you want more clarification or you are not satisfied with what the system has provided, you can ask more questions and it will be able to provide you information. So just one prompt, you'll be able to get detailed information because you ask the system to reason and think step by step. And you can always review how the thinking process was, right? You can always review that. So under here, you can see that it has provided all the thinking process, how it was able to arrive at the output. So all these you can review and make sure that it's in line with the way that we want the system to do. What is next? The next one is instruction prompting. So think about instruction prompting is just like you are having conversation with the system so that you will learn a specific topic, and then based on that, you can ask the system more questions. The reason why you have to do that is to let the system understand what specific issues that you want to focus on, what are the constraints, and based on that, it will be able to provide you very good information. One example is that let's say you want a system to use reflexive thematic analysis to analyze your qualitative data. You can upload an article about reflexive thematic analysis so that the system will learn more about the steps. And then you can say that based on what you have learned, can you go through the data and then use those steps and to analyze our data? We can do it right now for you to see what I mean by that. So instruction, think about it, is like you are providing the system some information so that it can apply it in the subsequent tasks, right? And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let me pull up this information. So as you can see here, I have an article about thematic analysis, step by step. So about thematic analysis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this article and let the system learn about it. And based on that, I will give the system the chance to analyze my data. So let's go back to Gemini, and then let me click on this one. So let me first attach the article. Can you review the attached article and provide me your understanding of reflexive thematic analysis? So the system has reviewed the article and then provided me the information about reflexive thematic analysis. And then it provided me also the 6 steps of reflexive thematic analysis. And then now, if you are okay, then you can ask the system to analyze your data for you, right? So I'm going to go ahead and attach my transcript. And you can also have further discussion, especially if you want it to provide more information about the steps, you can do that. But for now, I'm satisfied with the information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the transcript and then tell the system that always provide some background information is very important for the system to know what your study is all about. So I'm going to copy and paste the information about the study. And then I'm going to also put the research question there, but I'm going to give a prompt that will help the system to help analyze your data. I say, this is what my study is about. And then I would say, this is and you use what you have learned about reflexive thematic analysis and following the 6 steps to help analyze the attached data, addressing the following research question. This time, I will try and put all the research question and see what it will do. Research question. I think it's best practice to put one research question at a time so that the system will have time to really address each of the research questions. After the first research question, you can put this second research question. I think it's better that way. This time, maybe I will choose the second research question, but always give one research question at a time so that the system will adequately address each of the research questions. So it's analyzing. So the first phase, familiarization with the data. So it has already gone through the data. The second one, generating initial code. So it has generated initial code here and provided some supporting evidence. And then it goes to generating themes, initial themes. And then it will now revise the themes. So it asks whether we have to proceed to stage 5, right? So would you like to proceed to phase 5, defining and naming themes? I would say yes. Let's see. So the system has provided information about all the themes and the definitions and sub-themes and also evidence in supporting that and also asking about the next steps. So the next step, the analysis of the theme B is complete. Will you like me to continue the write-up by defining and describing theme A? Theme A, the primacy of economic and market pressures. So yes, I can say yes, and then let's see what we're going to get. So it has provided me information, giving a report concerning that, and then it asking you whether you should go ahead for to talk about the theme C. So that's all about this strategy. You provide the system some information, and then based on what it has learned, you ask the system to go ahead and complete a specific task for you. This one is quite similar to step back prompting. Step back prompting. It's quite similar. What are the similarities between instruction prompting and step back prompting? And put in the comment section and we will have a discussion concerning that. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll be providing you a lot of information or videos concerning applying or utilizing AI in your qualitative research. And the last prompt strategy is called meta prompting. This one is so powerful, right? sometimes it's difficult for you to come up with a very good prompt. So what do you have to do? Ask the system to generate a good prompt for you. You can just tell the system, I'm doing this study. This is my research question. Can you generate a prompt for me so that I'll be able to use it to help me to analyze my data? And the system can generate a prompt for you, right? So I like this one because even if you don't know how to prompt, right? Just ask the system. The system can give you a very good prompt, right? Let me give you one example. Let's say you want to come up with a prompt that will help you to come up with interview questions, right? So you can ask the system to generate a prompt for you, right? So let's try this one. Can you generate a prompt for me to help me to get a list of interview questions for my study? I'm doing a study, and my study is about burnout among primary healthcare physicians. And I want to interview them to focus on their experience of burnout and also the strategies that they are using to overcome burnout. Can you generate a prompt for me to help the system to come up with interview questions? Okay, so I'll put this one there. Let's see. You see the system has, so this one is on the go. Okay, so it has generated a prompt that I can use. So that is, I can use this one to help me to get good information. And also it has even provided the system some guidelines that it can follow to provide that information. Let's try, I think it provided us two of them. Two options. So let's try this one and see. Let me copy this one and let's use it and see what we're gonna get. So I'm just copying this prompt, paste it here, and then the system will go ahead and generate prompts for me to use it to collect data. Perfect. So you see how so easy, even if you don't learn anything, meta prompting is the best, right? You just you tell the system that can you give me a very good prompt for me to use for my work? Now the question is, which one do you want to use for your study? It all depends, right? So what you have to think about is that first think about what do you want the AI to do for you. And then based on that, you can think about what prompt will be the best. Let's say you want the AI to think step by step, then you can use chain of thought, right? If you want to ask the system one question at a time, then prompt chaining will be the best. If you want to provide a very good context so that the system can provide information consistent with the context, then it's going to be context prompted. Sometimes can combine prompt strategies, right? So think about prompt strategies as tools in your toolbox, right? You decide which prompt strategy you want to use, but you always have to consider the strengths and the weaknesses. And if you can explore the weakness and also use combine with one that will complement the weakness of the other, right? So the strategy here is that gets to know how to use each of them and then plan and see for every task, decide which prompt will be the best. And it's always good to try them out and then see what you're going to get. And the lesson here is that if you are not even familiar with the prompt that I've given you, you can ask the system to suggest a prompt for you and you'll be able to get rich or well-constructed prompts that you can use. So this is what I have for you. Let me know if you have any question you can put in the comment section. I'll be happy to address them for you. And thank you so much for your time.